All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here on this hot, muggy day. I'm glad that we are not standing in direct sun. I'm Annapolis Mayor Josh Cohen. I'm joined by the chairman of the Annapolis Economic Development Corporation, Magette Parker, and Planning and Zoning Director John Arison, both of whom will have some comments. Also here is the president and CEO of the EDC, Laura Fritz, our city manager and board member of the EDC, Mike Malinoff, and a number of members of our planning and zoning staff and EDC and others. We're standing in front of 145 Warman Street, where on the third floor we have the offices of planning and zoning. And as soon as we finish this press conference, Mike Malinoff is going to a previously scheduled meeting about consolidating Department of Neighborhood Environmental Programs, which includes inspections and permits, on the third floor as well, so that we can have a one-stop shop for people who want to do business and open up a house, open up a business in the city. And so those plans are very much in progress as we speak. One of the benefits of living in Annapolis is that Annapolis truly is one of the greatest places in the country to live. It's one of the greatest places in the country to work. But there's clearly a perception, and there's some truth to it, that Annapolis has been a difficult place to do business in terms of getting permits through the city government. The Economic Development Transition Team referred to this as a culture of no, and I and the City Council and our staff are committed to changing this culture of no into a culture of yes, how can we help you? One of the initiatives that a number of us are working on, both with planning and zoning, with neighborhood environmental programs, and the Economic Development Corporation, are looking at our various regulations that are in the code, are looking at a number of administrative regulations to identify ways where we can responsibly streamline the development review process. Are there things that we can take out of code? Are there changes that we can make that will make it simpler, make it clearer, make it more predictable? And the announcement today is an ordinance that is the first step in this process. It is a very simple step that we're proposing to take, but it's one that's going to have a very big impact on development to simplify and streamline that process. And it is all about striking the right balance between making the development process more predictable and more streamlined on the one hand, while also making sure that we provide adequate public input and review to safeguard our high standards for development in Annapolis. And this ordinance does that. And so to describe the ordinance, I'd like to turn it over to John Arison, who has taken the lead in working on this.
Hello everybody, is this on the record? Huh? Well, I just want to say that when the mayor came in, he had been looking into and asking his department heads about what we could do to streamline the development process. So we've been looking into that. We obviously rolled up our sleeves for this. You can see who's been working around here. And one of the things that we thought was worth exploring as planning staff was the fact that for certain applications for special exceptions and planned developments, it's a double hearing process. First there's a hearing before the Planning Commission, and then you have the identical hearing before the Board of Appeals to get something approved. And we had an applicant who was going through a special exception that was pretty controversial. And at the table with me, he had an attorney, very good attorney, worked for the same firm but not Magette. He had an appraiser, he had an architect, and he had a land use specialist. And we realized this guy was probably paying $1,500 to $2,000 an hour just for these people to sit through 4 hours of hearings. And then if you have two of those 4-hour hearings, that's a lot of scratch for somebody to come up with. So for the past few months, planning department staff has been working with city manager, the Office of Law, and especially with the Maryland Department of Planning and the Assistant Attorney General for the Department of Planning to see if there was a way that we could cut out one of the hearings and see if there's a way to do it which was consistent with Article 66B, which I'm sure you all know what that is. Article 66B is our state enabling legislation. The state gives us the power to regulate land through Article 66B. So there's a brief lesson in land use law. So what we've done to streamline the process is we took special exceptions where we proposed in this legislation that special exceptions will now only go to the Board of Appeals. Since they're the final decision-making body, we'll hold the hearing before the Board of Appeals. Instead of having a hearing before the Planning Commission and then the board, we'll see if it works just to take those before the Board of Appeals. And that'll cut out 30 to 60 days from the time of getting an application processed. With planned developments, we will take them only to the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission will be the decision-making, the body of record for planned developments. With appeals, if you don't like the decision of the Commission, you can appeal it to the Board of Appeals, but absent an appeal, applications will stop at the Planning Commission, and that'll be the final decision. It's really important to note, especially this being Annapolis, that the legislation in no way changes the public notification process, in no way changes the amount of input that we're going to get into these projects. This is not a backdoor attempt to try to take the public out of the process. We will still have posting, we'll write people, and we'll still have a public hearing on these issues, because public input to us anyway, to the city, and it's important to planning staff as well as to the administration, always has and will be paramount in terms of development review. We make sure that the public is involved in these decisions that affect their lives and their properties. So I think I'll take this opportunity too, just because we're talking about the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals, just to note that this city owes the volunteers on these boards a tremendous amount of thanks. These are people who volunteer to make the tough decisions, especially as they relate to land use. They meet once or twice a month, sometimes for 4 or 5 hours. And then we still have an HPC, and all the volunteers who are on these boards and commissions really make all this stuff work. Without them, the whole land use and development process would just grind to a halt very quickly. So, thank you.
Our partner in this process has been and continues to be the Annapolis Economic Development Corporation. I'd like to invite the chairman to say a few words, Magette Parker.
Thank you, Josh. Well, it's a thrill for the Annapolis Economic Development Corporation to be here at the podium at this announcement. We support the proposed legislation forthcoming from the Office of Planning and Zoning regarding the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals. As a land use and business attorney myself with the firm of Linnos and Blocker in the city of Annapolis, my firm's attorneys, and John mentioned one of them, we've worked firsthand with clients and seen how challenging the current system is in the city of Annapolis to bring a business idea to reality, challenging not only in time, but in, as John mentioned, the resources it takes to get through the system. The AEDC is encouraged by this progress and are hopeful that the Office of Planning and Zoning continues to streamline the development process. We are certainly pleased with the courteous and professional working relationship established by the Office of Planning and Zoning and our AEDC planner, Matt Jones, who has recently joined our offices, all part of the ultimate plan to make specific recommendations for simplifying the zoning code and aligning the comprehensive plan with the zoning map. These efforts, and others like them to come in the future, are essential in developing a more efficient, consistent, and predictable process for the business community. Today's efforts and those to come will make doing business in the city of Annapolis even better. The city's rules and guidance and guidelines need to be straightforward, transparent, and promote smart growth with the utmost care for the Annapolis community, the environment, and strengthening our city's financial standing. So as we go about our daily duties in the economic development, we are continually reminded how closely we need to work with the city and the business community to save time and money when it comes to the development process. We hope this legislation and our support for the department's efforts send a clear message to the business community that the AEDC and the city of Annapolis are committed to changing the way things get done, and ultimately how efficient things can become in the future. We commend John Arison, the mayor, the work of the Office of Planning and Zoning for doing the things that they've done to bring forth this legislation. And we can only hope that we can continue to work together to make progress in other areas of the development process, the permitting process, and just doing business in the city of Annapolis. Again, Mr. Mayor and John, thank you very much for all the effort and work you've put into this, and we wish Godspeed to the city of Annapolis. Thank you.
So in closing, this is all about striking the right balance. A number of planners from planning and zoning are here. John mentioned the members of the Board of Appeals and the Planning Commission and the Historic Preservation Commission and the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board, all of whom volunteer their time. We're very fortunate that we have truly committed people, both volunteers and people who work for the city, who go the extra mile to really protect and safeguard the character of our town so that we can pass it on as stewards to the next generation. This is about striking the right balance, and I'm confident that this approach does that. We still maintain high standards, we still provide for public review, but we also are streamlining and simplifying the process. In the big picture, this is one step of several. It started with the formation of the EDC. It's continuing with this. It's continuing with some additional changes that we're going to be coming forward with in the next several months. It's continuing with the circulator shuttle. It's continuing with allowing more flexibility in the parking rates. This is part of a broad, comprehensive approach to spurring economic development. Pleased to be here. Thank you all for being here as well. And to the members of the press, we will stick around if there are any questions afterwards. Thank you.